Coming on how especially with Pipeshift, like how you guys are building product, right? And I want to get a little tactical here, right? So I think as kind of models are evolving fast, new capabilities are coming out into the market at more of the foundation level. What are some of the things that you and the team are very tactically doing to stay on top of these developments so that of course you can figure out how to incorporate them, and b there's always going to be a classic tussle, right, between something new comes out which can enable a lot of new features for you,
Yeah.
but you've hit on something which seems to be working, and so you can kind of make that better, right? So there is this whole even FOMO on the product dev side, right? That hey, do we push out one more new feature? Do we run one more new experiment? And even if something new is coming out, do we incorporate it or we should not care about it? It's fine. Like we are kind of going down on a path. So talk to me very like operationally, how are you guys dealing with this challenge as a team?
I think we are not too, we don't get too forward by, say, a new launch that comes from OpenAI or something like that. Because I mean, I think internally the mindset that we have is if a company is in discovery phase and they are figuring out their use cases, or they want to just figure out which model works for them, that's not the ideal customer that we should go after as a company because that's not our ICP. Our ICP would be a company. I mean, even if I just break down the market of open source models, closed source models, we believe closed source models are the best when you're figuring out the use case, discovery phase. They're the best models, so you have the least amount of effort required to make them work for a use case and get it up and running and make sure it's validated. Once it's validated, open source brings in reliability and scalability, like predictable scalability and predictable cost structures. And it brings in reliability from multiple aspects. One is you can actually push performances up, maintain SLAs. It's not shared deployment, so you can actually manage your deployments and memory allocations for different models. The second thing is you're not dependent on other people's release cycles. Like there are so many companies recently that we've spoken to that are just mentioning that once Anthropic released Claude 4, their feature flags on the features that they had deployed with Claude 3.7 went up by 10-20% because the quality suddenly degraded for 3.7. And that's not okay if you have a stable, reliable use case that's working for you. So when your team is focusing on the next use case or the next feature, you're going back and reinforcing the previous features with a new release, a new model. When all you need is just an API that works and does not suddenly change, unless you want it to change, where you're like, no, I want to now push this use case, have a new additional feature on this use case. So I think that's where we see open source coming, where you need reliability and you need predictable cost structures because I think we've seen enough companies on Anthropic and OpenAI or Gemini who are on a $3,000 per month spend, and very soon in 2 months they're on $10,000, and in 6 months they're on $50,000 a month. And that's really problematic because as you're scaling, your cost structures start bloating out to a point where you now become heavily dependent on one model and one company, and all your spends are going into it, your burn shoots up. I mean, I've met companies who have $1 million Anthropic spends per month. So that's where open source comes in. It gives you some sanity around this is the amount of scale I can hit with these many, say, X $1,000 and how it's going to scale. So I think we have been very tactical on the kind of companies we want to work after. So tomorrow, if a new open source model comes out, we are not the first ones that will bring in support for it because our customers can try that model out on any shared endpoint provider out there in the world. What we deliver to them is, okay, you know this model GPT OSS works for you, or this Kimi K2 works for you, or Quen works for you. You tell us the SLAs and we'll set up that infrastructure for you and give you the API that just works. So I think the proposition is very well defined. And and finally, the other thing that I've heard a bunch of dev tool founders that have actually scaled up, succeeded, talk about is be a bit opinionated. Be a bit opinionated on what you will do and you will not do as a founder. And that allows you to actually stick to what you should be going after. Because in infrastructure, it takes time to build out. And you need to just not have the FOMO of just wanting to do something else very quickly. Because you have to build on an opinion that you create of this is how the world needs to be. Because if the other person knew how the world should be, they would have built it. So you need to have that opinion. Also, don't have blinders on, listen to advice, but also have some amount of opinion on how the world needs to be, what you believe is an infrastructure problem that should be solved for and should not be solved for. Like 2 years back, we knew that evals is not something that should be solved for by a company. And today, almost every company that's in production has their own evals pipeline. They don't use any other tool. Evals is something that's in-house. And we knew this 2 years back. We were like, it has to be custom built. Same thing as data preparation. We don't think data set preparation is something for training, is something that needs to be outsourced. Every company will own it in-house. And I think that's probably coming from the traditional ML world that we come from, where we know that data is core to you. It's garbage in, garbage out. Data is something that you'll keep in-house. Evals are core to you. You'll keep that in-house. And every company that's in production is now evolving into that workflow. We knew this 2 years back. That's the reason we never built evals on our platform.
And in terms of as an infra company, when you're having some of these conversations with customers, how, because I think customers also are learning now, right? And in a way, you're also being, while you're looking to solve the problem, I'm assuming they're also looking at you as a thought partner in kind of unraveling some of these problem statements and seeing what is the right approach to a lot of this
Yep.
stuff, right?
Yep.
What are you saying there?
They are looking at us as the experts coming in. And that's I think also ties into what I was talking about on the opinionated part. If they are looking at you for answers, you should not go and give them a free hand on which model do you want to use, what kind of orchestration are you planning to use for this specific use case. Tell me the use case, and I'll probably recommend what you ideally should go after. And then we have the infra to support that for you. And I think that's the easiest way to build and actually maintain that place with customers. Because the customer is coming to you for help. They don't want to go ahead and figure out like they don't want to go ahead and test 50 different models. Just give them a small set, like 2-3 models that ask them the use case. Give them a set of 2-3 models that work. They'll figure that out and then they'll tell you which model works. There are customers who want, like, a great example would be this customer who wanted to use a vision model. They wanted to use a vision model for their use case because they had some vision pipelines, which was just 10% of their end API calls. Inference on vision models is actually much slower than text models if you have to reinforce it for vision pipelines. And we had like, because of how our infra is set up, we have really custom pipelines that can optimize on text inference and custom pipelines that can optimize on vision inference. We were like, why are you using the same model? Anyway, the model becomes bigger. Both use cases take a hit on performance. Why not separate them out into two different models, have a smaller GPU instance for the vision use case because the use case is smaller, and have a bigger instance for the text model. Both models can be individually smaller. And that in itself is actually what the production stack looks like at the moment. But when they came, they were like, can we use this large vision model because that's the only one that's working for all our use cases? So you have to probably be a bit opinionated and be like, I mean, again, not I don't know what's the easy way of placing it, but like, you just believe that you are the expert and you know how it should be architected. If they knew how to, they would have architected it already. So just bring in those insights, because 6 months later, if something fails for them, it doesn't work out for them, you are the one that's taking the business hit. Um, so I think that's how we're looking at it.
And as a small team, as a seed stage company, like how do you stay on top of the model ecosystem itself, right? With closed source, open source, and so many new things happening, because then you have to be the ones who have to be going to the customers and they're looking up to you in terms of, hey, you are the expert on this.
I think that's just dedicating some time every day just to understand which are the best, highest used models by developers on anywhere, open router, um, artificial analysis, seeing what kind of models are actually being used, talking to some of the other infra companies also, that what are you seeing with your customers, talking and then being close to also your existing product engineering teams. Almost in every product engineering team, you have one or two engineers who want to try out the next model that comes out. It's just a thing that they want to do. So just if you be on top of it, you can definitely get a sense of it. I don't think there's a playbook or a tool that allows you to like create a feed of information every morning that you can look at, like a dashboard. But it's more like just consume information as much as you can, because the bet is everybody else is a human. Humans are not very different. So the information that you are able to consume by being in infrastructure and being somebody that's interested in the space is probably anyway 10 times more than what somebody else that's not in this space is consuming. So you anyway have more information on that space than anybody else. So we're not over optimizing for it, but I feel like that knowledge also distills out in a week or so. You understand, like you can be a week behind. It's not a big problem on 10% of the model releases or information that's somebody else has. You might have something that other people don't have. So I think it's around. It's mainly like that.